Welcome to the 1 Million Years of Joy podcast. I'm Dr. Andrea Benaker, your host, and my intention is to inspire you to find more joy in your life through the stories from our guests and the science on joy and purpose. Hlubi, welcome. It's such a pleasure to have you with us today.
I am so joyful to be here. And I mean that honestly, openly, lovingly.
Hlubi, you've had an impressive career across acting and activism. Can you share with our audience your journey and the key moments that have defined who you are today?
I'm an actress by profession and by passion and by love. And that was curiosity. I'm an entrepreneur by skill, profession, academics, and experience. And that was curiosity. I'm a mother. And that was definitely curiosity. And I'm a scholar. And that's the most curious I will ever and forever will be. I think curiosity and passion have been my gateways to the life of my dreams, the life that I want, the life that I built, and the life that I want to leave for my family. I am 47 years old, and I feel like my life is just beginning, to be honest. I think it's been a journey of self-discovery. But most importantly, Andrea, as we were chatting behind the scenes earlier, the power and the magnitude and the importance of joy in one's own life really only struck me later on in my life, because I've built a life where I'm a giver, not just as a woman, as a career. And at times that can rob you of your own joy. So I think that's a good start to our conversation.
How beautiful. You've achieved so many wonderful things, and you are also a laureate of the 2020 Nobel Peace Prize with United Nations World Food Program. How did this recognition influence your continued desire to combat hunger, and how can our listeners also contribute to this mission?
United Nations World Food Program has never done what we do or what we have done or what we will do because of awards and accolades. Those people, my colleagues, my bosses, my friends, are humanitarians. They're givers with a heart of passion. They are selfless in their need. It's been an organization that's been going on for over 60 years, especially in conflict and war-torn and famine-stricken continents and countries. And now more than ever, hunger is one of our biggest issues, especially in the geopolitical state. But once you're an activist, once you're a humanitarian, once you're a philanthropist, you never do what you do for the recognition. You do it from the heart, and you do it for it's servant leadership, as we like to call it. So I've stepped on as my role as a global ambassador because I was there for almost 20 years, Andrea. And for me, what joy means is being able to grow. That's joy for me, and what's the next level of my spiritual life? What's the next level of my work life? What's the next level of my academic life, my professional life? So it's doing what I love, a life filled with purpose, but there has to be an element of growth in wherever I'm positioned and wherever I choose to position myself. And that option and that choice brings me joy of growth.
I love that. And because we're talking about joy, you mentioned earlier that your life has been a journey that was not necessarily filled with joy along the way. Tell us about some of the challenges, some of the struggles, and the role that joy has played in your life in your earlier years, and the role that joy plays in your life today.
Gosh, that's such a beautiful question. I think in my earlier lives, I believed that joy was something that I gave away, Joy was something that I had to give to other people. Joy was something that needed me to be a participant of somebody else's life. And I realize now, almost in my 50s, late 40s, I realize that nobody else can cultivate joy but yourself. Nobody else can build joy but yourself. Nobody else can attract joy but yourself. And Andrea, joy is an energy, it's a frequency, it's a vibe, it's magnetic. And that is what I love about hope, same kind of WhatsApp group, and about optimism, same kind of WhatsApp group. You can't give those people those things. You can teach people how to cultivate them for themselves, but they have to internally build and be architects of their own joy, of their own happiness, of their own hope. And I have learned that late in life. And I realized late in life that a lot of my joy now is because of the boundaries that I had to establish for myself, for my joy. Boundaries is just the game changer for me as a Black woman.
I love that. And I was wondering if you can dig a little bit deeper on what do you mean by those boundaries? Can you share with our audience those details?
It takes time because a person like me, and I can only talk about myself because it's my experience. A people pleaser, I was. A parent pleaser, I was. A giver, a generous soul, an extroverted introvert. So my boundaries were crossed because I didn't know exactly who I was and exactly what it was to be and who is Hlubi Mboya-Arnold. And people love you when you say yes to the things that they ask you to do and the things that they tell you to do. But people call you all sorts of names, Andrea, the people that you can love the most when you start creating healthy boundaries because of your peace of mind, of putting yourself first, of putting your needs first for your own joy. And that's been a game changer for me.
Thank you so much for sharing. I found that so powerful. Your words just resonate with me so
Yeah,
deeply. I almost have goosebumps here.
yeah.
And you mentioned also that you're a mother. And given your journey, given the lessons learned over the years, now as a mother, how do you instill those lessons and that wisdom within your children so they can grow experiencing more joy in their life earlier rather than later in their lives?
That's a beautiful question. I think it's so important to teach my kid, people can teach their own children in whatever way they want, is to have a radical love affair with themselves. A radical love affair with themselves. When something doesn't feel good, when something feels off, if something makes you feel uncomfortable, if you don't want to do things because something in your little tummy, because he's still a baby, says no, you honor those feelings. You act on those feelings. We grew up in a generation, Andrea, where it was just your uncle, your aunt is your uncle or aunt. They can do with you whatever they want. You must do this, whatever you're told you do as kids, especially as girl kids, as girl children. You don't question anything. You don't put yourself first. Even in our relationships as young women, we put aside our own needs for the sake of the marriage, for the sake of the relationship, for the sake of the partnership, for the sake of the job. So it's having that radical love affair with yourself. That is what I want to impart to my children.
I was wondering if we can dive a little bit deeper into all the wonderful things that you're doing. And I know you're the founding member of SWIFT and a leader advocating for women of color in TV and film. Can you tell us what has been the most fulfilling part of this journey for you as you're focusing on achieving greater equity in this domain?
It brings me joy to see young women who are aspirant in the film industry and television industry not to have to go through such toxic, mentally destroying sexualization of their body and their art, all for the sake of being in a film or being in television or having that role. Obviously, once you know better, you do better. Back then, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, when I was still starting out, we didn't have things such as intimacy coordinators just to protect ourselves in a safe space on a film set. Our mental, our emotional, our bodies, that it should be protected within that safe space on a set. We didn't have those things. We didn't have policies of anti-harassment clauses on a film set, on a television studio. Now that I know better, me and other women, a founding member means it was a group of women that decided we can do better for the young actresses or script writers or directors or DOPs or casting directors that come behind us, Andrea. So that's what brings me joy. I don't believe in protecting people fully from the scars that make us be who we are today. Those are character building. So I'm not all about, people mustn't go through the drama, people mustn't go through the stress of any profession. I think that can be very much character building and insightful in the years to come, and what makes you you right now, Andrea. But at the same time, there are some things that our young girls really, really don't need to go through that we went through. And I swore to myself that that will never happen again to another Black girl of color in the arts. And that's what we created as Swift.
You've been a powerful advocate for equity in so many spheres. How can joy and optimism play a role in dismantling inequity? And how can people start this process within their own communities, which are still faced, sadly, today with many inequalities?
I think that in South Africa, especially, that our youth is filled with apathy. They don't care. They have no hope. They believe they have no power in certain spheres, in the political, economic, and social conditions of their neighborhoods, of their communities, of their homes. And as I said earlier on, Andrea, I can't give somebody that. I want to be able to teach people how to be able to be architects of their own joy. I want to be able to be an example that they see Hlubi so joyful. How does she do that? And through that, I can be that person that helps them discover how to create and to cultivate and be architects of joy for themselves. I don't want to be healing other people as a healer for myself. And that brings me joy to heal. I want people to know that Hlubi showed me that she healed. That means I too can find my own way to heal. That's what I'm all about. Hlubi has superpowers of being joyful. That's a superpower, I believe. It's a superpower, Andrea. So I want people to see that, gosh, I also have this superpower. Let me find how it can be the center of my existence. I listened to another podcast of yours, and it was so prophetic what one of your guests said, that butterflies come to you when you nurture your own garden. You don't chase butterflies, make them come to you. And that's by cultivating a beautiful, spectacular, miraculous garden. And I believe in that. I really believe in that. That was very powerful.
Well, thank you. Yes, Kanchana, and she's actually also in South Africa.
Yeah.
Yes.
I must hook
So,
up with her. I must hook up.
yes, absolutely. Happy to make the introductions. I really love this concept, as you're calling it, for everyone to become their own architect for joy. And if we were to actually distill that, and if there would be three ingredients that can allow every single human being to become their own architect of joy, what would you say would be the three main ingredients that they would need to prioritize?
Andrea, for me, to be an architect of joy, the three main ingredients are self love, grace of forgiving yourself for the things you didn't know, and allowing yourself to have some shame and guilt and sadness in your life. Give yourself the grace that it's okay. We all have a past, but that doesn't define us. And number three, let it go. If it doesn't serve me anymore, I let it go. Bye, bye. Let it go. Those are my three ingredients as an architect of joy.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your recipe and inspiring our listeners. And I absolutely believe, and it's so interesting because just yesterday I was talking with a friend of mine, and we were actually talking about the importance of self-love,
Yeah,
self-worth,
yeah,
and just saying I am enough, right?
yes,
So many people suffer in this world, sadly, because they haven't integrated that first ingredient into their life and their journey. And it's so sad. So, what advice would you have for some of the listeners today in terms of bringing more self love into their own life?
you have to believe that your positives are more than your negatives as a person, as a spirit, as a character. Take it one day at a time. Listen, I take it like 1 minute at a time. You know, it gets overwhelming. It gets life gets overwhelming. We're pulled in so many directions. There's so many voices. So I love solitude. I'm an old soul, and Andrea. So I love solitude, not necessarily isolation sometimes, but I try to spend time by myself to hear my own thoughts, to hear the voice of my ancestors, to hear the voice of God, and for my body to catch up with my soul and my spirit. I need solitude. So that also brings me a lot of joy because it gives me peace and it grounds me and I can breathe.
Be in acceptance, right? And breathe and be in acceptance of whatever comes our way rather than
Hey,
trying to fight things that we do not control, and
yes,
actually embrace with curiosity, as you touched on
yes,
earlier, on the beauty of these moments that are completely unexpected, unplanned,
yes,
and rather
yes,
embrace that beauty and begin the exploration to find the opportunities and the joy, and how certain doors and perspectives could enlighten us and bring us even on a more beautiful path on, on our lives, rather than resisting things that emerge, and that often we may at first glance think, oh my god, this is terrible, why is this happening to me, but rather see it from a perspective that maybe the universe is sending me a message here, and this is putting me on a better path in terms of the future. So acceptance is just so key, because otherwise we're going to fall into this dark
I know.
arena of sadness.
And joy for me is also just what if it all works out even better than you could ever imagine? Better than you could ever imagine. That's joy for me.
I want to continue focusing on some of the areas that you really made huge contributions in. And I know you've dedicated a lot of your effort to empowering Africa's future leaders through Futures CEOs. How does this work fuel your own sense of joy and purpose?
It's important to me that the way I spend my life or the time given here is to uplift people where I can and empower people where I can. I don't consider myself the miraculous Wonder Woman. That's not my definition of what brings me joy. As I said, Andrew, it's about me helping people find or create or take the tools to be able to empower themselves. Um, It's about creating other leaders. It's not about me. It's about, with what I have found and gathered and discovered through my own life processes, what have I learned that can make somebody's life a little bit easier than my own journey? Not forgetting that they still need to go the journey. They still need to do the climb, but I can give them like a knee up when I can, a push up, on the booty, on the bottom, up, and just go up a little bit. That's what I'm here to do. And then I walk away, because I still have my own goals and passions and dreams and things to fulfill myself. And that's why I believe when I said that in the early days, it was important to me to constantly give the joy, but I forgot that I also need to bring the joy back to myself. So there's a point where I've also got to make sure I give myself joy and create joy for myself and cultivate the joy for me too, as much as I do for other people. That's important.
If we're exploring all the areas you've been involved in, you've also worked extensively with the Reed Educational Trust and the Nali Bali Trust that highlights basically a strong commitment from your side to literacy and education beyond everything that we've already spoken about. How do you see education as a tool for creating joy and empowerment, particularly for marginalized communities?
I describe myself as a creative and an artist. So, within that realm of descriptions of what it means to be creative, I think the one path that has given me the best joy as an artist is the love of reading novels, the love of reading fiction. I started that from a very, very, very young age. And I've got siblings, and my father used to say to me that, Hlubi, you were the one sibling that I would start reading you a story, and you didn't want to know how it ended. You created your own ending. And that really brings me joy, because I think that's a very powerful way in which people can create their own realities, Andrea. I say to marginalized kids all the time, as you mentioned, those NGOs that I work with, I say to them all the time that when you read a book, kids, that it can take you and you can become anybody you want, not even on earth, in the universe. And you can be not the sixth or the fifth or the first wonder of the world. You are the wonder of the world, because your mind, your imagination defies gravity, and it defines the universe and the atmosphere and the stratosphere. And that's the power of the imagination for me. And that brings me so much joy. And I use that as a tool that if you can dream it, you can become it. And that's scientifically proven. You know that. You've got your PhD, not me. You're Dr. Andrea. I'm just Hlubi. So so I mean that if you can dream it, if you can imagine it, if you can visualize it, it's yours.
Fully agree. You've been involved in so many impactful initiatives, from combating hunger to promoting literacy and equity, while playing an important role within your family and raising your kids. What practices help you sustain joy and avoid burnout in such a demanding role as a parent, as an advocate, and focusing on all the initiatives we have spoken about? How do you protect your well being?
My inner peace is my highest priority right now. My mental well-being, my emotional well-being, Andrea, my physical well-being. So as I said to you, I take time to be by myself. My soul craves it, and when I don't, I feel like I'm going crazy, literally. I need time to just decompress and downtime and hear who I am again. Not a mother, not a wife, not an entrepreneur, not an actor, not a scholar, like the spirit of Hlubi. All the chakras aligning. I need that. I also need time, I think, to breathe and be out in nature. Sometimes fresh air is what I need. I sometimes the forest, the water. I'm a Pisces, so I'm a fish. So water spaces for me are life giving. A lake, an ocean, a pool, the sea. Those are life sources for me. Those are healing powers for me. Water. So water is a very important ingredient to my joy and my sanity and my existence. And then, the other important things in life: family, friends. My circle is small, and I like that. Holiday trips, yeah, those are the things that I need to do. But for me, the most important and sacred thing, it's actually not just to do, not important, it's sacred. It's practicing solitude. That's sacred for my joy.
Fantastic. And it's so funny because I'm also a Pisces and I also, like you, love water. So I truly, truly understand what you're saying. I seek water. I seek to be around water, in water when
Yes,
possible.
yes, yes. We gravitate towards water. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love the blue necklace and shirt.
Yeah. Yes, a reminder of water
Yes,
and the power of
yes,
water.
yes, yes.
So, Hulubi, what kind of legacy do you hope to leave, both in terms of the impact you've made on the African continent and the joy you've cultivated along the way?
The legacy I want to leave behind is nobody matters more in anybody's life but yourself. To leave a legacy, to do great things, to do small things, you have to have the habit and be in the habit and practice the habit of appreciating yourself, valuing yourself, prioritizing yourself, putting you first and your needs first more than time to time. That's what longevity is. That's how you can play and have fun in life and be joyful and reinvent and have impact, because that's sustainable for your emotional well being, your mental, and most importantly, the spiritual.
Let's talk about the spiritual well-being.
Yeah.
How did you start integrating that into your life? When did it become clear for you that the spiritual well-being was as important as our physical well-being?
When you listen to your gut, Andrea, when your instincts play a big part in the decisions that you make and the choices that you make and the jobs that you turn down and the kind of money or the source of money that you make or the kind of people you're going to go with or the kind of people you're not going to go with, when you really start tapping into that, it's very clear that a lot of things in this life can be noise. And it's very clear that most of the time we are led by the external stimuli, and that sometimes the mind can play tricks on us, and that you've got to listen to spirit. And our body tells us so much. That's the ultimate technology for me, is my body. I listen to my body when it says that I'm tired. I listen to my body when it says to be rest. I listen to my body when my body says to be slow down. But the noise and society and patriarchy and capitalism just lets us go, go, go like we're machines. And Andrea, we're not machines. So the spirit for me is my ultimate technology. That's what I listen to, because in the short term, the present, and the long term, it all works out for me. Maybe even better than I could even imagine.
It fully resonates with me, and I fully agree. Listening to your body, and as you know, I've had multiple brain surgeries, and after the first operation, where I have a huge scar here in the back, that pain was just like so strong whenever I would do too much or too little. It's really, really interesting. And I said, wow, what a blessing. I now have this inner compass, that is telling me when to maybe stand up, go for a walk, do a bit more, exercise because I'm too sedentary, or the opposite. It's telling me, Andrea, slow down because you're now running a marathon and your body can't sustain this. So you see, despite even that specific personal adversity that I went through, I find this as a blessing. And listening, as you're saying, to your body, listening and even following your intuition, because often these are the small noises that we suppress and we don't want to listen to. I just feel it's so essential to really listening to our inner voice to guide us in the right direction through everything that we do in our personal lives and our professional lives. It's essential.
And you know what, Andrea? Those things take time because we are so used to not listening to them. It's actually breaking out of the system and actually just knowing how to truly listen to yourself. And you know what? The red flags that we always ignore. We're like, no, 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 no. It's be fine. It costs us later. It always costs us later. You know what? It wasted time. If we were just honest with ourselves from the beginning, you know what I mean? Those red flags are like guardian angels, spirit, intuition, whatever you want to call it, spirit guide, whatever you want to call it, gut, whatever you want to call it. It's never there to mislead us, ever. It has no agenda, ever. It's there to guide us, always. And it's to be trusted, always.
And as we're thinking about joy in our world, what do you believe we need to do collectively to actually bring more joy and harmony and peace into this world?
Joy is a frequency, it's a vibe, it's an energy, and it's magnetic. You can feel a peaceful spirit and it follows through. It jumps from body to body, from personality body to personality, from person to person. You can feel a joyful soul. You know what? You can feel a joyful soul. The room changes. The fragrance of that person just it lifts people's spirits. And they can have like everything in their life going wrong, but you can feel a joyful spirit. And that can lift people and that can carry people. So I believe that. So it begins with every one of us, everyone. And then that one person can become four, those four can become eight, and so on and so on and so on. It's magnetic, I believe, you know, and it doesn't need to be put on, it doesn't need to be forced. It has to be truly intentional and truly pure. And it's okay not to be all bubbles every single day. That's not what joy is about. Joy is about being completely authentic with the situation as is and finding those beautiful moments as you described and being grateful for those little beautiful moments, the tapestry of life that you can create, that we are solely in charge of and are architects of, I believe.
Beautiful. Hlubi, it's been really a pleasure speaking with you today. I was wondering if you would have any final words of wisdom that you may wish to share with our audience.
As your other guest said, I have to quote her because it's beautiful, that don't go chasing butterflies. Cultivate that beautiful, special, magical, that's the word I'm looking for, magical garden within yourselves. And those butterflies will swarm to you. Love and light, love and light. Me too. I mean that, Andrea. Stay in touch. Mwah. Love and light. Mwah. Love and light.